What's up everyone, it's Red Saber here from Saber C++, and today we're adding scoring to our Tetris game. The first thing we'll add is a way to check for completed lines in our Tetris field. If we have any completed lines, they should be cleared out and we should add some to our score. At the top, let's create an int lines array with 4 items, all zeros. After we lock the piece in place on our field, let's check for any completed lines. I'll create a for loop with an int py going from 0 to 4, and inside of that, an if statement where we'll check if current y plus py is less than field height minus 1. So if the y position of this part of the piece on the field is inside of the field's height, then we'll create a bool line and set it to true. Then we'll create a for loop going from int px equals 1 while px is less than field width minus 1. Inside of this we'll say line and equals field current y plus py times field width plus px does not equal 0. This AND equals operator says that if line is true and the condition on the right is true, then line will be set to true. But if line is false, or if the condition on the right is false, line will be set to false. So since we're checking if the current position does not equal 0, this whole for loop checks if the entire row is filled with non-zero values, in which case line will be true, or if at least one value is equal to 0, in which case line will be false. So if this line is filled with blocks, we'll set each block inside of the line to 8, which, when we output the field, will be changed to an equal sign showing the player that the line is about to be removed. So for int px equals 1, px is less than field width minus 1, px plus plus, field current y plus py times field width plus px equals 8. Then we'll add this line's y value to the lines array we created above so we can remove it. I'll use a for loop with an int h going from 0 to less than 4, and inside of it we'll check if lines h is equal to 0. And if it is, we'll set lines h to the current y plus py. Then we'll break. So here we're going through the lines array, and the first non-zero value we'll set to this line's height. This means that we can have up to 4 lines being removed at the same time, because the long straight piece allows up to 4 lines to be filled up at the same time. Then we'll want to remove the line, so after we draw the current piece, we'll add some code to clear out the line and move the other lines forward. Create an int sum and set it to 0, then loop an int I from 0 to 4. Each time, sum plus equals lines I. Then we'll check if sum does not equal 0, so if we have at least one line to be removed. And then we'll first run output field to show the field with the equal signs on it, and then we'll remove the line. I'll create a for loop with an int I going from 0 to less than 4, and inside it we'll check if lines I does not equal 0, so if this line is a valid line that we can remove. And if there is a line to remove, then we'll loop an int px from 1 to field width minus 1, and inside of that, an int py from lines I to 0, decreasing by 1 each time. These two loops will have us go through all of the lines above the one we're moving, and we'll want to move them all down. So we'll set field py times field width plus px to field py minus 1 times field width plus px. Remember, y equals 0 is at the top of the field, and y increases towards the bottom of the field. So we're setting each line equal to the line above it. Then, after the py loop, we'll set field px equal to 0. So after we copy the line downward, we'll set the entire line to end. Now, if the line's I does equal 0, so in this else statement here, we want to break out of the loop because we have no more lines to remove. And below all of this, let's create a for loop with an int g going from 0 to 4, and we'll set lines g to 0. So we'll clear out all of the lines array because we now removed all of the lines we need to remove. Let's see how this works. As you can see, if we complete a line, the program will go ahead and remove it. Now, let's make the game speed up as time goes on and keep track of the score. At the top, let's create an int tick count and set it to 0, and an int score and set it to 0 as well. Inside of the force down if statement, let's increase tick count by 1, and then check if tick count mod 50 is equal to 0. And then if speed is greater than or equal to 10. Speed minus minus. So tick count will increase for every piece, and every 50 times of decreasing tick count will decrease speed by 1, so the game gets faster. Then, we need to increase the score by 25 for each piece placed, and by 100 for each line cleared. So, right before we add a new piece, let's increase the score by 25 because we just placed a piece, and let's create a for loop going from 0 to 4, and in each loop, we'll check if lines I does not equal 0, so if there was a line found, and if there was, we'll increase the score by 100. Now that we've added the score, let's display it. So before we output the field, let's run serial.print score :space and serial.println score. And after the while loop, so after the game is over, let's do serial.print game over score :space and serial.println score. The last thing we want to do is allow the player to actually restart the game. So we'll say if aboy.pressed A button, so if they pressed A button after the game's over while we're displaying game over, then we want to set score equal to 0, game over equal to false, speed equal to 10, speed count equal to 0, force down equal to false, and I'll go ahead and copy these for loops up from the setup function where we filled up the field with 0s for the center and 9s for the walls to this if statement. Let's try it out. As you can see, we can now gain 25 score for each piece placed, and when we finish a line, it gives us 100 points. If the game ends, it prints out game over and gives us our final score. And if we press the A button, it restarts the game. The game is now working really well, but we can't see it on the MicroCade screen yet, so be sure to check out the next video where we'll create a graphics engine for our Tetris game. I'll put that video there on the right as soon as it's available, and you can check out my channel on the left for lots more tutorials about Arduino and the MicroCade.